Hi, everyone. Shannon here with Mental Health Louisville. Just getting another one of your amazing questions answered by a professional in the field. Today, we have Russ Irvin Funk with us, and he's a consultant, a coach, an activist based here in Louisville. And his main focus and the work that he does is providing meaningful services to support men and boys in ways that promote and advance racial and gender justice. If you want to learn more about him and his resources, and services, you can simply just Google his name, or you can go to russfunk.me and learn all about him. But thank you so much for being with us today.
You're so
Our,
welcome. I
yeah,
appreciate the invitation.
our question that came in is, why is it so hard for me to open up to my other guy friends about mental health struggles? I've been in therapy for quite some time, but I just don't feel like I can tell anyone else.
That is a wonderful question. Thank you for the asker and the question. I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of complicating factors that makes it difficult for men to open up about mental health or other factors that are visiting our lives, particularly with our male friends. And a part of it, I think, is we lose an ability in the way we construct masculinity in the U.S., particularly white masculinity. We lose an ability to have intimacy with each other. Early in our child development, roughly around middle school age, we get taught the misinformation, often severely, that intimacy means sexual relationships with women, period. And so any kind of emotional intimacy, any kind of psychological intimacy, any kind of social intimacy, all of those intimacy skills, all those intimacy qualities that we desire as a human being, those get kind of washed away from us. And
Mhm.
what you're talking about is really a form of intimacy, right?
Mhm.
Being able to share what's going on with us, mental health or mental ill health or otherwise. Those are really forms of social and emotional intimacy. But a lot of us as men lose those skill sets between middle school and college, where we're not supported to continue to have that ability to be deeply intimate with another person.
Yeah.
When you co- when you combine that with a lot of the lessons that a lot of us as men receive about what it means to be a man, and the messages we get around competing with each other in terms of being stronger, being not stronger, excuse me, being strong, being self-reliant, being confident, and exposing the fact that I have some vulnerabilities can feel like exposing a weakness, and
Mhm.
that's wrong. That's a problem. A lot of us as boys, as men, have experienced significant pushback and against severe penalties for showing weakness with other men. We get bullied, we get punished, we get teased, we get isolated, we get a variety of other social behaviors that happen to us. So those two combined, this lack of confidence or comfort with being intimate with other people in a non-sexual way, and this competition that often arises with other men around being exposed when we are vulnerable, when we are soft. I think that makes it really difficult for us as men to be vulnerable with each other and share the kind of realities and experiences that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can even imagine, not having that practice as, if it's getting shut off or not even an option for like young elementary, middle school boys to do that, that you don't have the practice with it. And so it's kind of like, oh yeah, we don't do that here. We don't bring that up here. We don't talk about that here. Like those muscles and abilities to be like, oh, this is a safe space to talk about this. These are my best friends. Maybe they're going through the same things. It's just like, nope, we've never done that. We don't do that as adults, type thing, where
Absolutely.
possibly like socialize more, traditional feminine spaces, maybe have that practice, have that space to share our emotions and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we're all humans, like we've all got it. Like we need
Mhm.
to just kind of open that space to talk about it. And kind of speaking for some personal experience, I work with a lot of young adult men's in my practice. And when they do feel safe enough to talk about going to therapy with a friend, usually it's receptive with like, oh yeah, I see a therapist too. Or like, then it kind of opens that door. But yeah, it's unfortunate that the culture and the space around shapes that it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's not safe or it's not good or yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. And I think as your client base has suggests, most men feel most comfortable being that kind of intimate with other women, not with other men. So opening this up with other men really requires the level of I would combine the idea of safe space with brave space for men to be able to be brave with each other in terms of these kinds of questions. Um, you mentioned, Shannon, the idea of it being a muscle and your lack of practice. And like any skill, this requires practice. And the other thing that emerges for me as we're talking is this perfectionism that is tied to this notion of manhood that we have. And rather than practice makes perfect, which I think is a blunking lie, we talk a lot about practice makes progress. And so if you can practice, even if it feels to you, even if it feels like insignificant, insufficient practicing and you're not making any progress, trust that you are making progress. I remember when I was in middle school and I was trying to learn how to dribble with my left hand, and I couldn't get it. And then one day I would get a little bit better at it. And then the next day, wouldn't you know, I was worse than I was the day before. And it was so frustrating. But that's how muscle memory works. That's how progress happens. It is not steadily and progressive. It is you take 2 steps forward and you slide a half step back. So I would really encourage all of the men who are listening to practice being vulnerable with your men friends. You will likely, as Shannon suggested, you will likely see positive benefits, but practice that opportunity. And don't go with the big ask, right? Don't give the big, most explosive vulnerabilities you've got. Start with little ones. So you can start to develop some confidence, some skills, some muscle memory about what is it like to share with other men. And you can learn when you don't get the response you want. That doesn't mean that was your failure. That means it was a half step back, try again in a different way with a different man.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I was just going to say, like, what would you recommend, I guess, or even from personal experience or professional experience of like how to navigate those spaces of, these are your friends that maybe you've known for years, or maybe they're friends that you only do sports with or work with or whatever it is, like, yeah, how bringing something new into the conversation, whether it be little, medium, or larger. I don't know whether there's ways to do it or just recommendations of kind of how to navigating a new territory conversationally with someone.
I think practicing is obviously a key process of this. I suggest talking with men around. So the research suggests very strongly that men 40 and over don't have strong intimate relationships with other men. They have pals, they have buddies, but we don't really have friendships. Research also dedicates very strongly that men remember having close friendships, usually back to elementary, middle school, and miss it.
Yeah.
So you're probably not alone in wanting that a deeper relationship with your men friends. And so I encourage you to just, rather than starting with vulnerability, starting with the ask of, we've been friends for a long time, and I kind of like to go deeper with that. I'd like to be stronger as a friendship, and that means being able to share with you more about who I am and what I'm going through.
Yeah.
I want, as a father, I also want to make a call out to fathers of sons in the room, and the opportunity and the responsibility that we have to make sure that our sons don't learn the same lessons that we learned, that we can practice with our sons or how to be vulnerable, how to be open, how to be non-sexually intimate. And part of what that means to me is practicing leaning into apologizing, to amends making, to being the one who shows up in that vulnerable space. Our sons watch and learn from us by modeling. So by practicing that with your partner, with your children's mother, with your child or your children, what is it like to be vulnerable and to be intimate with them? That helps them develop that skills and that confidence so that they start mirroring it back. Let them practice with you, and then support them with their friends in elementary and middle school. Support them to continue that process of how do you have intimacy? How do you practice intimacy with each other?
Yeah. And I always think kids are a really great space sometimes to even learn from, because they're just
Absolutely.
they don't always have all the filters and the pressures that we as adults have. And so sometimes even watching your kids and how vulnerable they are, because they don't know that society is blah, 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 blah. So it's kind of like, okay, seeing maybe my 5-year-old son doing that and me trying to do that too. It's going to look different because we're adults, but being able to use that as a great resource. And of course, modeling, because kids are little sponges.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thank you so much. I know this individual is going to be so appreciative of this information. Is there anything that you kind of want to leave our audience with, or just anything before you log off?
No, I think that's what I pretty much wanted to cover for today. Thank you so much for inviting me to share my experience.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take good care.